Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos on lesson content.
Got no place to be, got no place to go. Come hang out with me on the Mr. Flanders Show.
Good morrow, everyone. Mr. Flanders here, and we are back at it with science, and we are looking at a whole new habitat this week. So, the last couple of weeks we've been learning about the forest and deciduous forests and their leaves versus pine needles and the animals that live there. Well, this week we are looking at freshwater wetlands. And before we really dive into the information here, let's go ahead and take a look at the picture of the wetlands here, okay? As you can see, it's obviously wet, okay? But there's, some greenery, there's some grass. So it's not like it's just like a giant lake or the ocean or something like that. It's quite literally a wet land. So it's, where earth and grass come together to meet the water. It's pretty cool. All right. With all of that out of the way, I say let's go ahead and jump into some of this information about the wetlands, okay? Our location for the wetlands. They can be found along the boundaries of streams, lakes, ponds, or even in large shallow holes that fill up with rainwater. All areas with wet soil, or where water covers the soil, are considered wetlands. I like that. Okay, the weather. Some wetlands are temporary and seasonal. Freshwater wetlands may stay wet all year long, or the water may evaporate during the dry season. Now, just for an example of a dry season, it'd be like the summer, because it gets super hot and it causes the water to evaporate. Okay? Let's look at the plants of the wetlands. There are floating plants, such as duckweed, that extends its roots down into the water to absorb nutrients. Think of it, that's its way to eat food. Okay? The duckweed floats freely and is not attached to the bottom. Cattails and sedges are common plants that grow up from the soil through the water. Very nice. And then animals. Amphibians such as frogs, toads, and salamanders can be found here. Insects such as mosquitoes are found here. Wetlands are also home to an amazing number of birds. Other animals include alligators and some fish. Now, the great thing, guys, is most of our wetlands here in Arizona, not that we have a lot, but, like the wetlands out here in Arizona, we don't really have to worry about alligators. That's more so for the wetlands of, Louisiana and Florida, okay? But one thing I want you guys to remember is this word mosquitoes, okay? Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes love sitting water. And wetlands is full of nothing but sitting water. Mosquitoes will generally use this location or this type of environment to breed. That means basically make more mosquitoes, okay? And as you already know, mosquitoes are not fun, okay? They can bite you, they can cause you to itch, they can just be overly annoying. So if you're ever in the wetlands or find yourself going to the wetlands, make sure you prepare for it by carrying some mosquito repellent with you, because it's no fun when they bite you and you start itching your leg or your arms and stuff like that. It's no bueno. So be careful of those mosquitoes when you're around the wetlands. Okay? Okay. All right, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and look at our first worksheet for the wetlands. And you'll notice it's basically just repeating all the information we just learned, okay? Our first worksheet is all about location, weather, plants, and animals. So for our location, there's not like one place that we can find a wetland. There's a bunch of different places. So, shallow holes, streams, lakes, ponds, stuff like that. So I want you to pick the best answer that suits you and put it right here, okay? For the weather, it says some wetlands are temporary and seasonal. Freshwater wetlands may stay wet all year, or the water may evaporate during the dry season. So you can say that it's basically wet. but it can dry up depending upon what type of wetland it is. I will leave it up to you. Okay, plants. Remember, we were talking about those floating plants like the duckweed that are just freestanding plants that have their roots go into the water and get the nutrients, okay, which is basically the plant food. Okay, you can also talk about the cattails and the sedges. And then for animals, amphibians like frogs, toads, salamanders. Okay, you could definitely put those here. You can also talk about the mosquitoes. Even though mosquitoes aren't necessarily animals, they still live in that area. They are part of the environment and the habitat. So please feel free to put the mosquitoes there. Definitely birds, fish, alligators. What I would like you to do is pick at least 3 animals or insects to write about in this area. Okay? Okay. Then, after you are done with that, you're going to move on to this. Okay, this worksheet right here. Freshwater wetlands. What is it like in the wetlands? You could literally say, it is wet. However, I will not take only it is wet. You need to say a little bit more than just it is wet. Okay, so tell me what it's like in the wetlands. Okay, we know there's different animals that live there. That we know that the weather can sometimes be seasonal or temporary, meaning it does not last year round. Okay, talk to me about what it's like there. After that, you're going to look over here and it says, who lives in the wetlands? Again, give me 3 animals or insects that live in the wetlands. All right, and then over here, if you are doing this packet in Google Classroom, I want you to give me 2 questions you have about the wetlands. However, if you're doing this at home, I want you to draw a picture of the wetlands with 2 animals. Okay, so if you're doing this in Google Classroom, give me 2 questions about the wetlands. If you are doing this in the paper packet, you're going to draw a picture of the wetlands with 2 animals in it. Okay, and if you need help figuring out like an animal to draw, boom, here is one. That's a frog. Boom. Okay? Okay. And then lastly, we have one more info sheet to read for the wetlands, and this will help you here answer the questions here. Okay? And I'm going to read you the small passage real quick. The wetlands. Wetlands can be found along streams, lakes, or ponds. They may stay wet all year long, or the water may evaporate during the dry season. Cattails and sedges are common plants that grow up from the soil through the water. Amphibians such as frogs, toads, and salamanders can be found here. Insects such as mosquitoes are found here. Wetlands are also home to an amazing number of birds. Other animals include alligators and some fish. So, number 1. Where can they be found? And by they mean the wetlands. Where can you find wetlands? Okay? And if you're doing this at home, please feel free, if you're doing this at home in the paper packet, please feel free to use the color green to go in here and circle where the answer is. Okay? So you're going to write, where can the wetlands be found? Number 2, name 2 kinds of plants found here. And you can use the color blue to find that here. Okay, and then number 3, what kinds of amphibians will you find here? And you will use the color purple to go circle your answer if you're doing this in the paper packet. Okay, what kinds of amphibians will you find here? Okay, that about wraps it up for the wetlands and for science this week, guys. Stay tuned for social studies in just a second. But if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns about this worksheet or about the wetlands, or if you know an interesting fact that I don't about the wetlands, please reach out over Class Dojo or Flipgrid. I would love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, I will see you all in just a minute over in social studies. Stay calm, stay safe, stay hysterical. Catch you later. Hello everyone, and welcome to another round of social studies. We are in week 7 of our curriculum, and this week we are learning about history. The last couple of weeks we've learned about geography and economics, like our wants and needs. But this week we're going to talk about the country we live in and some of the people who've really impacted our country and have made history. Okay, now generally history is pretty important stuff. It usually happens in the past. Believe it or not, right now we are living history because we are living in a time where something pretty important is happening. It could be a little scary sometimes, it could be a little exciting sometimes, but this is going to be something that's taught in textbooks eventually. The way that the world was kind of shut down for a little bit and kids got to stay home and have an extra long summer break and things like that. So we're a living history. This is important stuff. But like a trip to the store, not really that important. So that's not really history. Going and getting your favorite toy from, a toy store or something like that. That's not really history. But like the birth of the nation, when all of the individuals who signed the Declaration of Independence said, "Hey, we are not part of Europe anymore. We are now part of the United States." Well, that's history. The White House burning down, like we talked about, when the English army came over and set it ablaze. Well, that's history. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's happened in the past that we should know about, that are really important. Okay, so this week we're going to start by talking about our country, and then we're going to move on to a couple of individuals who are really important in our history. All right, so we're going to look at the USA, which is the United States of America. Now you'll notice here that we've got a nice little representation of the United States of America. This is our whole country right here, done up to look like our American flag. And if we were to look for Arizona, which is the state we live in, it's one of the United States, we would find Arizona right here on this map. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the people who made the USA. Here we go. People made the USA. We live in the USA. Many people have lived in the USA. Long ago, people helped make the USA. Pretty straightforward stuff, guys. Okay. Number 1. Where do we live? Do we live in A, Europe? We live in Europe. B, we live in the USA. Or C, we live in Africa. Okay. We live in Europe. We live in the USA. We live in Africa. Where do we live? If you're doing this in Google Classroom, make sure you're using the little circle over here off to the side to put it over your choice. Number 2, what does the author say people did long ago? A, they made the USA. B, they went to the store. Or C, they painted pictures. What does the author say people did long ago? Okay, and while you're finishing that up, I'm going to flip to the next sheet. Okay. And if you're finishing up, that's fine. Feel free to pause the video until you can catch up with us. I don't want you guys to feel rushed at all. Okay? But for now, we're going to start looking at one of those individuals who really impacted our history and really changed some things around here. Okay? And this individual, his name is Squanto. And he was one of the Native Americans that was here in America before the English pilgrims came over and colonized. That means before we came over and basically set up our own houses and our own shops here. And since he was a Native American, that means he was here first. Native means that you are from somewhere. Okay? So Squanto was from America before the English came over and colonized, before they made it home. So here we go. we're going to learn about Squanto. Squanto helped the Pilgrims. He showed them how to hunt. He showed them how to plant. Sounds like a pretty helpful guy. Okay. Let's look at our questions about Squanto. Okay. Number 1. Based on the text, who did Squanto help? Did he help A, lost people, B, his pets, or C, the Pilgrims? Who did Squanto help? And if you're confused, the answer is right in that very first sentence. Okay? So based on the text, who did Squanto help? Lost people, his pets, or the Pilgrims? You tell me. And then, number 2. What did Squanto teach the Pilgrims? A, how to sleep, B, how to plant, or C, how to eat? What did he teach them to do? While you were thinking about that and finishing that up, remember there's no rush, okay? It's not a race. There's no prize at the end of this lesson for doing the worksheet the fastest, so take your time. For now, I am going to move on from Squanto. Okay, and we're going to look at our last individual for our social studies lesson this week. Okay. And for our last part of the lesson, we're going to learn about Harriet Tubman. Okay, and this is a great statue of Harriet Tubman right here. And there's not a lot of information we're going to get about Harriet Tubman right now. We're just going to have basically this whole sentence right here that we're going to be working with. It says, Harriet Tubman helped people be free. She was a very important individual, and she really, really thought that people should be free, because there was a time when not everybody was free, and it was pretty mean how they were treated. Okay, so Harriet Tubman helped people be free. Number 1. What did Tubman do? A, she helped people be free. B, she left the United States. Or C, she took people back home. What does this sentence say that she did? Okay. And when you're finishing that up, we're going to look at number 2, which is a 2-part question. Okay, number 2. How did people feel when Tubman helped them? Use words and a picture. Now, if you are doing this in Google Classroom, all I want you to worry about is using your words here, okay, in this area, to write how you think people felt when Harriet Tubman helped them. You don't need to worry about putting pictures here. If you are doing this in the paper packet at home, I want you to not only write here, but I also want you to draw a picture on how you think people felt when Harriet Tubman helped them. Okay? And as you are finishing that up, my friends, I'm going to tell you right now, that's the end of our social studies lesson this week. All right? Like I said, this is all about history this week. We're looking at individuals who were really important to American history. We talked a little bit about what the U.S. is. It's the United States of America. It's where we live. Okay? So think about that stuff. And, think about how these individuals are important. Squanto, Harriet Tubman. Think about maybe some of the other individuals you know of that have been really important as well for American history. And if you want to leave me a note on Class Dojo and tell me your thoughts on it, or maybe post a little Flipgrid video, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm going to get running. Okay, I will see you guys later. stay safe, stay strong, stay hysterical, and stay having fun, because I hope everybody's having fun right now. I'll catch you guys later.